So this is my first time doing a YouTube live, probably since like 2018. And as I know that nobody's watching at the moment, I know that it's possible that somebody might watch the recording here. I think it's just a little bit necessary for me to start off by explaining exactly why I'm here, who I am, what I'm doing, etc., etc., etc. Um, I was doing Instagram lives since July for my business, which is it's just me. Um, I am super passionate about mental health, and it's just been like a journey. And there's a lot of reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing these days. And a lot of it, I'm just trying to find the easiest way to be able to reach people, and people who might really need this information, or people who might be interested in certain topics. And so I'm really just looking for a place where I can just be a sounding board, and I can cultivate deep psychological discussions, essentially. So, um, I did have a PowerPoint done, but I totally forgot that I need like streaming software in order to show my presentation. So we're doing this as an ode to my Instagram lives, and we're just going to go back to paper, you guys, and me talking. So I know it's not really super simple. I mean, it is super simple. I know it's not really that interactive and it's not that entertaining, but this is specifically really just for people who are really interested in mental health, people who might be looking for advice on certain mental health topics. Um, and I mean, really just people who might be looking for potential future collaborations with me, as I also get ready to eventually start a podcast. So, with that being said, I figured that maybe YouTube might just be one of the easiest ways to get this done and get it started. And it can also be a really easy place to compile and keep all of the videos and all of the recordings. I mean, it's been forever since I've done YouTube live. And so it's been forever since I've even uploaded videos on YouTube anyways. So here we are. Anyways, so we'll get started officially here in a minute. Here in about exactly 50 seconds, we'll get started officially from the top of the line, the top of the board. Okay. We'll do that. Okay. All right, here we are, 5:05. Okay. So, um go ahead and feel free if you drop in as I am talking, and you can feel free to drop in a question, or if you have a comment, you can drop it in the Q&A. I should still be able to see it. So here we go. So thank you everybody who might be tuning in to see the recording. Thank you anybody who drops in the live. I know I'm basically thinking in advance, but thank you for dropping in. Please continue to support. Make sure that you hit the follow, and make sure that you're signed up for notifications to keep up with any more videos that this channel will drop. Cool, thanks. All right, so this week we'll get into the topic here in a second. But so my name is Sharissa, but you might also know me as Eradication Writer. You could possibly also know me as Eradication Lady on Twitter. You might know me as like mostly Eradication Writer is my like online tag. But my name is Sharissa. So if you cannot pronounce my name, feel free to just call me S. I should be able to know who you're talking to. But yeah, I am a graduate student getting my master's degree in psychology. And I'm also a wellness coach. And aside from that, I'm a mental health advocate as well as a human rights activist. So I do a lot of volunteering, especially for women's rights and human rights in general. And I also do, I forgot what I mentioned. Oh yeah, mental health advocate. Like I do these informatives. I don't get paid for these. I simply do this because I know that even though I don't like blow up in views, I also know that sometimes people do come across my videos, and they usually come across these videos whenever they need them the most. And so that's one of the reasons that I do what I do, even though I don't get a lot of reach. I don't get major reach. I don't get millions of views or likes or follows or shares, but people do come into contact with these videos. So I think that is very important. I myself have had my own mental health struggles over time. And, you know, it's normal for it to be a consistent battle. That's something that I've learned from myself that I can definitely instill in others, especially those who struggle with mental health. It's always going to be a consistent battle most of the time. And it does get easier. The more that you learn about yourself, the more that you become self-aware about, you know, the more that you learn how to control your emotions and how to process your emotions and such, it becomes so much easier you know, to be able to manage a lot of those mental health struggles and those symptoms that come along with certain degrees of mental health. So, you know, if you're depressed, you know, sometimes it's really hard to find that motivation to get out of bed every morning and to actually take care of yourself, to take a shower, to feed yourself, to brush your teeth, to wash your face. You know, sometimes those simple acts can be so hard, but when you learn how to do it in the way that makes sense to you and that feels most authentic to you, it gets so much easier. So that boils down to support, support, support. No matter what, always having somebody there for you, always having that support system, always knowing who you can call when you are literally at the last string of like your will to live. I mean, that at least having at one person, and that they know that they also know that, you know, that they're your support, or yeah. So always remember that support, support, support is key. Even if it's just something as simple as calling the crisis hotline or attending a support group, it counts. And use those situations, use those that availability of resources to help you, because nobody wants you to feel bad. Nobody wants you to feel sad. No one wants you to feel angry. No one wants you to feel depressed. Like, I'm even putting myself out there. Reach out to me, like, because it is hard. And sometimes the craziest things that we do is because we never had someone there to tell us that we're loved and that we're cared about. And if we would have known these certain things in those times, then we probably wouldn't have done those things that ended up hurting us. So anyways, so why am I here? I know, why is this random chick just sitting here talking on a YouTube live? Well, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to destigmatize and normalize mental health conversations. And I also have a mission to help people understand the vast subject of psychology and how it can fit into our everyday lives. Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay. So yeah, something that I learned growing up is that um, people, some people grow up in families, and those families look at people with depression or anxiety as crazy people, people who are crazy. And wow, okay. People who are crazy. And, that's not exactly the easiest the thing to grow up with. And you might not realize it whenever you were a kid, but whenever you got older and you yourself, now this is kind of where it strings off in paths, because it's very possible that because of the idea that you were taught as a child that people with anxiety and depression are crazy people, you probably grew up thinking that you never need a therapist. You were probably also raised thinking that you don't need to talk about X, Y, and Z that's bothering you, because everybody has issues. And so you should just deal with it. And a lot of us might have grown up with people who are like, that's what the method of processing emotions was. That's what the idea of therapy was just dealing with your emotion. Just deal with it however you know how to deal with it. So not a lot of many people probably weren't taught proper coping mechanisms whenever it came to dealing with anxiety, or whenever it came to feeling anxious or feeling nervous or feeling unsure. So a lot of us were not taught these sort of coping mechanisms. Now, it's possible that if you were taught that the same ideas, that you don't need therapy and that crazy people are people with depression and anxiety, then it's also equally as possible that you might have had certain influences whenever you were in your adolescent stages that might have supported the idea of receiving therapy, and that it's normal to be able to, or to go to therapy and talk about your problems and feel your emotions and allow them to come out so you can actually vent. So it's possible that maybe whenever you waited, like me, this is my situation at least, I waited until I was 18 to get psychiatric help. But there's a lot of this is probably one of the reasons why I feel absolutely motivated to get into psychology, and that's to deeply explain I'm trying to think of it, the necessary steps of proper mental health. And especially if it comes from somebody, like if you were like me, 18 years old, for the first time going to the psychiatrist or to the therapist, you probably didn't have a very good understanding of what the difference is, what the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist is. A psychiatrist is a doctor who is going to put you on medications to alleviate or ameliorate your symptoms that are caused by depression or anxiety or bipolar disorder, et cetera, et cetera. So my experience when I was 18 and I got thrown at the psychiatrist, I was told that I had XYZ, take all these medications. I had zero um, explanation or real education on these medications. So I was put on many different medications, and many times I found myself going into the hospital because I was having these huge mental breakdowns and things just wasn't making sense. So, fast forward to where I'm at now, about 3 years ago, I I fully weaned off of all of my medications. And I did that with the help of going to therapy and actually learning these processes and what is non-toxic behavior versus toxic behavior, and how to identify certain behaviors and how to set boundaries and set et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's so much more behind the mental health discussion than medications and diagnoses. There's so many different mechanisms and education and information for people and patients and individuals to understand, so that way you can actually know what's going on in your head. You can actually see the wheels turning, and you can understand the reasons how the wheel turns and why it turns that way. And you can eventually link and connect the dots from everything that you've endured up through your life until this point. So that's one of the reasons why I'm here and why I do what I do. So the topic this week, and I usually cover different topics every week, is holiday stress. Basically, how to deal with holiday stress. What is holiday stress? How does it happen? Why do we get stressed? Like, how do we deal with this? So, first things first, holiday stress, super common. A lot of people deal with it. A lot of people have holiday stress. And I might not, everybody might not experience holiday stress, but I'm definitely one of these. And on a serious note, I went through a situation in the middle of this year that introduced me to the feeling of grief. And everybody has different grieving periods and grieving patterns and processes and steps of grief. So for me, it's a little harder to explain because I've literally been, it's hard to explain. But because of this grief, it makes the holidays a little harder. And that's one of the reasons, or that's one of the concepts that people will, that kind of make them more stressed. That's one of the causes of holiday stress. For some reason, I blanked on the word cause. But yeah, so it is absolutely common, and everybody may not experience holiday. My gosh, everybody may not experience holiday stress, but I do know a lot of people experience holiday stress. So even if you love and get along with your family, that can be, you can still experience holiday stress. And even if you have, and then especially if you have distanced yourself from family, if there's specific reasons why you might have separated yourself from your family, holidays could probably stress you out because it's either the worried about the fakeness of being invited to certain the fakeness of being invited to family events, or if it's the I don't know, there's a lot of different things. So that's just one of the examples. And then I strive to answer at least two questions for this. So why do we get stressed, and how do we manage the stress? So first, in order to understand how we're going to manage the stress, it's critical to understand what causes holiday stress. So holiday meal planning, for one, making sure that everything is cooked well and making sure that no food is forgotten. No one forgot the pumpkin pie, because how can you not have pumpkin pie? Nobody forgot the pecan pie, because how can anyone forget the pecan pie? Or did anyone forget the turkey? How can we forget the turkey? There's so many different ideas. Or not just ideas, but concepts that fit under the holiday meal planning stress. That's a lot. Making sure that everybody is invited or aware that, hey, we're doing Christmas at my house at this time on this day, or Thanksgiving. I know we're past Thanksgiving now, but you know what I'm saying. Financial burdens. Obviously, one of the biggest stressors for anybody, really, especially these days with inflation, is financial stress. Do we have enough money to pay our bills? Do we have enough money to buy food? Do we have enough money to contribute to Christmas dinner? Do we have enough money to contribute to buying gifts for everybody? Do I have enough money to contribute to donating to charity? There's so many different financial burdens that circulate, and central basically to the holidays, because there is, you got to buy gifts for everybody, or at least the people that you care about. Got to figure out if you're going to donate to any charity or charitable organizations for the holidays. Because there's a lot of homeless children. There's a lot of children who go hungry during the holidays. There's a lot of families who might not be able to, who probably can't afford food as well. So should you contribute to that? So there's a lot of different decisions that have to be made, especially concerning finances. Travel. There's the stress associated with travel. So like you have to worry about your luggage. You have to worry about making your flight on time if you're flying out of or to your destination for the holidays. You have to worry about traffic, gas, car insurance, car accidents, flat tires. You have to worry about, you don't have to worry about, but there's a lot of travel stress. Family stress, visiting with families. Some people might have families that don't acknowledge other family members. A lot of people might have separated families, divorced families, split families. I know growing up, I always had, okay, there's Christmas at my mom's house, Christmas at my dad's house, Christmas at my dad and stepmom's, Christmas at my mom's, Christmas at my grandma's, Christmas at my other grandma's. Like it's always one or two or three or four different Christmases that you're going to. That kind of thing is stressful. And especially if they are all like different family members. There's in almost every family, I feel like there's the really conservative family and there's the really liberal family. So depending on which side of the political spectrum you swing, visiting one side might be more stressful than visiting the other side. So, you have those types of stressors, toxic behaviors. If you might have set boundaries with a specific family member, but that family member might not appreciate you setting those boundaries. That can cause tension, that can cause stress. So yes, visiting family can definitely cause some stress. And then finally, one of the last causes of holiday stress is grief and loss. So like I touched base on before, even me myself, like I'll just be honest, I lost my grandmother this year. And none of the holidays have felt the same ever since. Which, to be honest, I only really spent like the major holidays with my grandma, but sorry, sometimes my mind just goes blank. But yes, and especially though, Christmas time and Thanksgiving and Easter are the three main holidays that I would always visit my grandmother. Always. Or at least almost always. But, so a lot of the times these holidays just do not feel like the holidays. And that's usually a common occurrence with many people who might go through grief and loss. So, but see, there's another factor that also plays into holiday stress. So obviously we know what can cause holiday stress, but how does holiday stress feel? Do you know if you're feeling holiday stress? Some people don't even know what stress feels like because they never thought of it as stress. It's the same thing as like, oh, this is what depression feels like. And you probably never thought that you had depression until you realized what depression feels like. And the different variations of how things can feel. So holiday stress can feel like anxiety, and consider the different types of like symptoms of anxiety that that you can feel. I mean, we know that anxiety, is like the racing heartbeat. For some reason, that's the only one I can think of. Give me 1 second, so I can list some other anxiety symptoms that can be extremely helpful to be aware of. And so, yeah, I mean, anxiety has different categories of symptoms. So, I mean, you can feel like you're hypervigilant. You can feel like you're just like, you can hear like the smallest pitter patter of anything. Super irritable, Irritability is also one of the things that, like, how holiday stress can feel. Being irritable, depression, low motivation to get out of bed in the mornings, low motivation to even get anything done for the holidays, headaches. You could have more headaches and migraines during the holidays because you're so stressed. You could, and the tension. The tension can definitely cause headaches. If you've ever heard of the word tension headache, nausea. A lot of times, anxiety can cause nausea. Just because of that, there's like an uneasy feeling. It's just like, I feel like this is a bad idea. Like, I feel like I can't do this, type of situation that can cause nausea. Tension, stress, and like tension headaches, all of that can also lead to body aches because of all of the tension, because you're just so stressed and you have like such tight muscles, and so like everything is super like tense and tight. And it can almost cause like the feeling of, if you've ever been in a car accident, like not like a super severe car accident, but I mean even that, but like even just like a regular car accident, like a minimal damage car accident, I guess I should say, because I'm not trying to like say that, whatever. Car accident. So you get someone rear ends your car, you get whiplash. That sore feeling or something that you get from being in a car accident. It kind of, being stressed can kind of cause body aches just like that. So it can also cause insomnia. Anxiety and depression, even, or especially if you have like bipolar disorder, or something. Even if you don't have bipolar disorder and you just have mood swings or something like that, you might notice that sometimes whenever you are super stressed, and especially with the holidays, that it's so much harder to fall asleep at your usual time and sleep soundly throughout the night. Now, insomnia can mean one of two things. It can mean that you have a really hard time falling asleep. It can also mean that you have a really hard time staying asleep. And it can also mean both. So, stress can cause you to do things like that, like not being able to get your quality sleep that our bodies need. So, now how do we deal with holiday stress? So, here's a couple of ways and how we can deal with some holiday stress, or how we can ease it, I guess I should say. So psychologists recommend that you imagine what the interactions are going to be like, so you can prepare yourself for what could trigger you, so then that way you can set those boundaries for yourself and others in advance. And it's great to be realistic. Make sure to maintain a realistic mindset whenever it comes to imagining what these interactions are going to be like. We can all hope that nobody is going to bring up the Supreme Court decisions over the summer of 2022. We can hope that nobody brings up the supposed red wave that happened in November. But it's fair to say that if you're a liberal and you go to your conservative family household, that they might say something that might trigger you. And you can choose now, before that happens, if that happens, what are you going to do? And stick with it. If that happens, are you going to stand up and defend yourself? And if you do, also consider what can happen after that. What somebody might say to you that might upset you, and what you can do to avoid that. Or, you can choose to just ignore it and blah, blah, blah. Or you can choose to walk away. Most of the time, my decision, whenever someone puts me on the spot like that, or I'm in the moment like that, and I'm just like, yeah, nope, the best thing for me is to leave, because I have a tendency of saying things whenever I get upset. And you see, thankfully, I know that that's my behavior. I know that that's what my go-to interaction or reaction is whenever something like that happens, because I just choose not to deal with it. Because there's not going to be a productive conversation. I like to have productive conversations. So Um, another psychologist recommended tip is to be mindful of yourself. You prepared yourself for what could be expected if you followed the first tip. Now you can apply those boundaries that you've already preset. So know yourself, be confident in what you have decided for yourself and what you know. You know yourself better than anybody and anything else. So use that intel to help make your holidays less stressed. Um, Psychologist recommended tip number 3 would be have an idea in mind when it comes to gift shopping. Now this tip was very focused on like the shopping stress, obviously, when it comes to the whole financial stressor, because usually that's what the stressor is whenever we're talking about shopping. So it can kind of help if you already have your budget. You already have your budget in mind for your holiday shopping. Now, before you go shopping, you can also consider so for whoever you're buying gifts for, list them out, and beside each of their names, write an idea of what you can buy them or what you want to buy them. It doesn't have to be specific, but if it is specific, you can write that. But then after that, whenever you go shopping or you go scouring the ads, you go find specials and sales and deals on these items that you're wanting to buy for people for holiday gifts. Now you can have an idea of what to look for that's a good price that fits within your budget. So that helps take care of some of that stress. And it also helps to wrap them and tag them as soon as you get home with them. So then that way you don't have to worry about doing all of the wrapping all at once. So, and then psychologist recommended tip number 4 would be to make time for yourself. Obviously, self-care is the best care, and that will always be one of my favorite sayings. When you make time for yourself and you take time to care for yourself, so much good can come out of that, because whenever you are at your 100%, then you can be at your 100% to help everybody else around you. Like aside from yourself as well, because obviously if you're at 100%, then everything's good and you feel good and you want everybody to thrive around you as well. Some other recommendations include be true to your feelings, don't stuff them, and acknowledge them. If somebody says something during the holidays that hurts your feelings, that's very hurtful and very personal. Be true to yourself in that moment, and apologize for them feeling that the way that they do. You can leave it at that, because at least like that right there can add to that separation of truth and fact, or truth and opinion, fact and opinion. Because obviously, just because somebody's perception or their opinion is some sort of way of you, it doesn't automatically make it true. If you're not looking for drama, sometimes the best thing to say is just say, I'm sorry that you feel that way, and move on, because you can't control what someone else sees or feels or does. Another tip is if this is a time of grief, reach out to your support system. As always, your support system is always key, just like I said at the beginning of the video. So make sure that whenever you feel sad or you feel lonely or you're really starting to feel that grief, that grieving moment, call your support system, call your friend, call your mom, call your husband or your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever. Call them and vent to them. Let them know how you're feeling. Let them know, like, I feel really sad. I feel like I'm crying all the time. I feel like I want to cry all the time. I feel like I can't sleep, something like that. But reach out to your support system and let them know how you're feeling and what they can do to help, you. Also, stick to your budget. Like I said at the beginning, whenever it comes to have an idea in mind when it comes to gift shopping, like I said, make sure that you have your budget set aside in your mind, because having that budget, having that plan of how much that you can spend and how much that you want to spend or how much that you can spend, will help you be able to determine gifts for everybody without breaking your bank and without creating more stressors for you. And lastly, don't be afraid to get help if you find yourself needing it. If you find yourself at a stage where you're like, I am losing my will to live, call 988, call the suicide hotline, call for help, because you are not alone. And I can guarantee you that somebody loves you, because nobody should feel depressed, especially during these times, especially whenever there's people out here who are trying their best to provide support for everybody. Just reach out. The biggest step is reaching out and getting help, telling somebody that you need help. Like I said, you can always reach out to me. I will do my best to point you in the right direction and to provide you with adequate resources to get you to where you're going. So that's it. That concludes the first topic discussion on YouTube Live. And now, while I know that nobody has jumped in and added to the discussion, that's okay. That's okay, because the first time is usually not the easiest. So, for anybody who might be watching the recording, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, you can feel free to drop them in the comments, or you can feel free to email them to me at eradicationwellness@gmail.com. As for updates, if you are dropping in because you were watching my Instagram lives, this is exactly where we'll be doing my lives now. Now we're doing YouTube lives. But basically, I'm sticking with live informatives. And yes, they are still happening every Thursday. But aside from that, thank you all so much for supporting my inaugural YouTube live for Eradication Wellness. And I will see you all next Thursday. Bye.